Dublin in a day, no hotel, no sleep. Just a last minute mission to take two teenagers to a gig with me playing travel agent, taxi and snack provider. It started with £15 ferry tickets and ended up in a petrol station at 6 AM. So was it worth it? Let's find out. Right, since starting the channel I've seen loads of people doing these extreme day trips and I can't help wondering, is it just something influencers do to brag? Or are they fun? Well, I've toyed with doing one, the opportunity came up, Suin phoned me up one day to say, Dad, I've booked 2 tickets to go and see Gigi Perez in Dublin. So she hadn't thought about how she was going to get there, she hadn't thought about anything, and I thought, well, let's do this, let's see what all the fuss is about with an extreme day trip. So part 1, the plan. There wasn't one. She booked this back in December, and I just assumed we'd get a ferry. If it was just me and her, I would have gone the civilised way, driven to Liverpool, got a plane, got a cheap hotel, got a plane back. But there was 3 of us, and it was just uber complicated. And we were seeing prices of £200 for 3 foot passengers to go to Dublin. I thought, what? So me being me, I left it till the last minute. There was an added complication because Stena crashed Irish Ferries crashed a ferry into the berth in January and they weren't even sure it would be open. Great fun. So me being me, I'm sitting there a week before we go and I'm pressing buttons on the Irish Ferries app and it's still coming up with close to 200 quid. Then I see this little button that says short trip. So I press that and all of a sudden I was getting a return for 3 people for £36. Press the button, clicked. A couple of days go by and I'm getting a bit suspicious here. I thought, I haven't gone to Ireland for that since 1986. So I phoned them up and they said, her exact words were, how the feck did you get that price? Bad Irish accent, but that is genuinely what she said. I said, I just need you to confirm that me, my daughter and her mate are booked on that ferry. And she said, yes, fantastic, we're coming to Ireland. Either I'm good or lucky. If you stay to the end, you might find out I might not have been that lucky. So let's deal with getting there. We're rather lucky in this situation. We live 20 miles from Holyhead and I managed to cajole the wife into dropping us off. It's getting better already because I can hear the Guinness calling. The organised side of me pre-booked a leap card which gives you transport all around the place. Always worth doing something like that in advance because they can stiff you on the journey from the terminal, whether it be an airport or a terminal to the city. In fact, there was a bus there sitting there, hopefully trying to get £8 each off us, but no, I had a leap card and we got into town fine. Bear in mind the leap card was £7 and a one-way bus was £8. Plan ahead. I've been doing this a while now, I'm getting better. But we did have one problem in Holyhead. At the check-in desk, he was saying, oh, another one of these problem cases, it's telling me you have to pay any money. And I'm going, I'm not paying any money. So he phones his boss and we get through. That was fine. But it was a bit nerve-wracking and I couldn't help wondering if I was going to have problems at the other end. It's dead easy to say I'm not getting on your ferry when I'm in Holyhead because I just phone the wife, she picks me up, I go home, they missed the gig. It's gutting, but at least I haven't gone anywhere and wasted a day. So we actually managed to get into the city centre for pretty close to 12 o'clock, which is good. The ferry crossing was nice. It was one of the smaller boats, the Isle of Inisheer, but it had somewhere to buy coffee, if you could afford it, and the internet was free. Nice touch. Now, I'm there with 2 teenagers who are focused on seeing Gigi Perez. If you don't know who Gigi Perez is, look her up. She's actually quite good sounding. I wish I had a ticket now. And of course, concert starts at 7. They wanted to be in the queue at 5 o'clock. I said, why, you've got seats, but anyway. And all they were focused on was going to their gig. They brought a change of clothes, they were going to get changed. And I was thinking, I'm in a city, I'm not going to a concert, I want to do some sightseeing. Let's make this a proper extreme day trip. And I thought, I know what's going to happen, we're going to wander aimlessly. I haven't been to Dublin for nearly 40 years, and we're going to see nothing. So, goes on to Viator, I've got a tiny bit of credit, and basically for the princely sum of £1, I bought a self-guided walking tour. You load it up on your phone, it tells you where to go next. I had no intention of going to all the places on it, but I gauged the kids' reaction to each thing we did, and we just skipped on and on and on. But essentially we managed to do the doors. They were colourful. The birthplace of Oscar Wilde, a pub that had a statue of Oscar Wilde, so I could get Suin to sit next to him. She's got no idea who Oscar Wilde is, but she does remember seeing his grave in Paris. Past the National Gallery. Suin's not an art fiend, but at least we passed it. But all the time we wandered around, we're looking, we're taking in the sights of the city. find somewhere nice to have lunch. There's a coffee chain there called Insomnia. Highly recommend it. Their lightly toasted wraps are amazing and the coffee's good. Had a quick stroll down Grafton Street. Suin likes the souvenirs. Didn't really do much because the souvenirs just didn't hit it for us, which is unusual because Suin normally hits the souvenirs. Maybe she wasn't buying for friends because she brought a friend with her. We walked into the Whiskey Museum, didn't bother staying. It was quite expensive. Well, it wasn't expensive if all participants can handle and appreciate decent whiskey. I can, but I wasn't paying for them to not drink whiskey or have a swig and go, didn't like that. But we were able to see the bar. We toyed with staying for a drink, but it's a nice view, plenty to see. The gift shop was really expensive. I do love it when you can check out a place's gift shop without actually going in, so we can say we've been to the Whiskey Museum. And we ended up in Temple Bar. Now, just as you're going into Temple Bar, there's some really nice boutique vintage clothes shops. We had a look through them, and we found a bubble waffle place. Not the cheapest, but bubble waffles are nice. We were ready for some calories, job done. Of course, by now it's getting on for about 3:30, and the kids decide they need to go to a McDonald's loo to get changed. Their thinking was, you don't have to buy anything, you go in, use the toilet, get changed. And I said, how long do you need, girls? And they said, about an hour. I thought, what? An hour? So I wandered up and down Temple Bar a couple of times, and I could hear music, and I could smell the Guinness. Now, I'm not a big Guinness drinker. In fact, I find it to be a little bit much, but I thought, I've got to have one in Ireland. So it goes into the bar, and blow me down, it was the finest pint of alcoholic liquid I have ever had. It really does taste different over there. The barman thinks it's a shitty water from the Liffey, and he could be right, but he goes, I agree with him. Anywhere else in the world, it's just brown water, and it was stunning. So 2 pints later, the girls finally came out, but I had an empty glass, so I had another one. Yep, Guinness done, appreciated. The girls stayed for a drink, the live music was great. We killed a bit of time there. Now they're all glammed up, and they decide, let's get over to the gig. And I'm thinking, why do we want to stand in a queue for an hour and a half when you know where you're sitting? But anyway, we did it. We stood in the queue for an hour and a half. I said goodbye. We're now talking 7 o'clock. I've got the evening to myself and it's raining. Now I could have gone back into town. Problem is National Stadium's a fair bit. Not a fair bit, but it's a half-hour walk each way. But I found a really nice little Moroccan restaurant where I said to him, listen mate, give me the table that no one's going to want. I'm going to have a coffee now. I'm going to have another coffee. I'm going to have a meal. And hopefully when the kids come out, you're going to sell them some cheesy chips. Crap, I haven't bought any cash for me. I said, listen, do you take cards? He goes, I will, but I'd rather just do the whole bill at the end of the night, so I only pay the transaction fee once. So I sat there and watched a Moroccan football match, and it wasn't the warmest cafe in the world, so I was a bit chilled by the time they come. Girls came out, they've had a great night, straight into cheesy chips, and up until this point, I wouldn't call it extreme, but we'd had a good day trip to Dublin. We had a reason to be there, but I can't help thinking, why do these influencers fly halfway across Europe, spend a few hours in a city? They would have had the same logistics getting in and out as we did. You don't get to do much, but I thought, each to their own. This is where it all starts to go wrong. I trust Google Maps. Irish Ferries are sending ferries at various intervals across 24 hours. The original plan was to wander around, take in the vibe, maybe have a couple of drinks, find an all-night cafe, watch the lights, just be in Ireland, because it had been stunning weather until the second they went to their gig. It was tipping it down, blowing a gale, and I thought they're not going to enjoy wandering around this city. So I start using the bus network to get towards the ferry terminal, and I was realising I was going to end up on a ferry terminal with a 1.5 mile walk on a piece of land that's been reclaimed from the sea, so it's going to be exposed, windy and wet. And I thought, stuff that, let's get an Uber. And this is the worst Uber I've ever had. Nothing against the driver, nothing against the car. The reason was he takes me to a ferry terminal that is shut. There's a sign there saying early arrivals, doors locked. I said, dude, you could have told us. And he goes, well, I just assumed you were getting the ferry. The deal is the 1:15 in the morning ferry is car traffic only. You ain't getting in the terminal. End of. Now the annoying thing is, as we were waving goodbye to him, we realised there was a services, a Circle K. It's a bit like a Motorway Services. It's an American chain. They've got a waiting room there. The bugger would have gone past the Circle K, but no, there we are on the headland. A good half-hour walk from Circle K. Security guard comes along, he goes, dude, that's the only place you're going to get that's dry. I can't give you a lift there because there's insurance and there's cameras here. We cannot put 3 people in a van. You're walking. So we walk back to Circle K, which incidentally would have been the same distance as walking there from bloody Dublin in the first place without having spent €20 on an Uber. Gets to Circle K, there's a waiting room that's unheated. Luckily the girls are knackered and they manage to go to sleep. I'm just angry and cold. I tried to sleep and I couldn't. Just as I was getting close, some shady looking lady was wandering around looking at people's phones who were sleeping. So that was my chances of a bit of a kip gone. Tick, 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 tick. Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and we're here in Circle K because a taxi driver dropped us off at a unmanned ferry terminal. And yeah, I'll explain all in the video, but this is what you don't do if you come to Dublin on an extreme day trip. Finally comes to 7 o'clock, pays another €10 for an Uber to do no distance at all, but I wasn't putting the girls through that rain. Back to the ferry terminal and onto the ferry and a nice crossing on back on, I've got to admit it, the MV Ulysses is their biggest ferry. And I love facts, couldn't help finding out that it is the biggest car ferry in the world by capacity. It's been working the route for 20 years. It is a beautiful ferry, except it only gives you 20 minutes of free internet. Wasn't really a problem because I've got roaming, I'm getting Irish internet most of the way. The bit where I had no signal, I used my free 20 minutes, which time I was picking up the Holyhead internet. Yeah, at least I had internet. So here we are, extreme day trips. I've had no sleep. I've been on the road for 24 hours and I haven't seen a gig. I've explored the city, but not fully. I've got wet, I've got cold, and I've been ripped off by Ubers. Well, not ripped off, but I'm sure the guy must have known. So was it worth it? The price, unreal. Talking 12 quid each to go to another country. The city, interesting. I think I would have rather had a bit longer and maybe done one of the attractions, but that would have just sucked your day. The night, let's just say, if you ever do an extreme day trip, make sure you're getting a flight out that day. Or you stay in a hotel, then it stops being an extreme day trip. Most importantly, I don't think you can do any city justice in a day. Let's face it, if you're in the UK, you're going to Manchester, you want to see everything, you'll either stay over the night before or the day after. Why on earth would you do it in another country? It's a thing influencers do to say, look how much fun we've had. Well, I'm trying to be an influencer and I'm being honest. Most of it was fun, but it would have been a lot more fun to have had a night's sleep and come back at a civilised hour. So extreme day trips, in my opinion, not worth it. Have you ever done one? Be honest, would you do it again? Tell me in the comments. Did I do something wrong? Tell me in the comments. Tell me your horror stories. Mine actually wasn't that bad. I just missed a night's sleep and got very cold. If you're planning one, don't. That's all I can say. Don't. There is just no reason to just go to a city just for the sake of saying you've been there. And let's face it, if you're flying, name me a city where the airport is less than 40 minutes from where you want to be in the city. Bear in mind, if you're going by plane, you've got to check in 2 hours before you come back. If you're really lucky and you get a 6 AM flight out of London to somewhere that's only an hour away, you could theoretically be in a city centre by 10 AM. However, you're talking, a lot of airports don't fly after 8 o'clock at night. Let's say you're lucky enough to get a 10 o'clock departure. You're cutting your day short because you've got to be in the airport by 8 o'clock, which means, based on my theory, that most of the best bit of an hour from the city, you've got to be leaving the city at 7. Is it really worth all the upheaval for essentially 9 hours tops in a destination? I don't think so. You've got a reason to be there, that's different, but a lot of the reasons to be there are usually events like gigs. They're at night. You are not coming out of a gig at 10:30 at night and getting on a plane unless you're really lucky. Do yourself a favour. Get a hotel. Get a hostel. Find out where the park benches are. Don't try and do it in a day. Prove me wrong. Tell me about it.